Oh, 2021. Whew. It's been a long year for a lot of reasons. But in today, I wanted to put down my thoughts in a list of the top 10 video games from this year that I've played that I really enjoyed. Now, I want it to be apparent from the start of this list that these are only games that I have played. There are probably plenty of games out there that I didn't play that are really worth being in the top 10 list, but I didn't play them for one reason or another. Either didn't have the time, didn't have the money, didn't want to spend it, or just uninterested in the genre that that game had to offer. Now, I will mention some of these games at the end of the video, so stick tuned for that because I do think there are some kind of worth mentioning. But yeah, this list is only going to be the ones that I've personally played. So this is my opinion list, and I hope you guys are interested in checking it out. So as we get into it, guys, make sure you sit back, make sure you kick back, make sure you go grab that snack as we get into this year's top 10 video games.
There is no need to be alarmed. Please remain in the vehicle for
So number 11, Jurassic World Evolution 2. I need to mention Jurassic World Evolution 2 here as my number 11 and main honorable mention on this list. Jurassic World Evolution is a fantastic game for those of you who are looking to spend some time with the beautifully modeled dinosaurs in a fun pseudo-strategy game of running a park or research facility. And it gets no real complaints from me, if I'm honest. I think it lived up to the standards of being a sequel to the first game, and the only issue I have with it really is that that's all it did. It simply lived up to the standards and did not really push the series forward. Now, there are some cool additions like having a very cinematic story mode and modes like Chaos and Challenge that you can have fun with, but ultimately I found this game being more of the same from the first game, which is either good or bad depending on how you found that one. For me, both games were fun for a while, but I always found myself walking away from it for another game, and that's why it just gets an honorable mention at number 11 here. Alright, let's start the true discussion. Number 10, Mario Party Superstars. Number 10 on my list is Mario Party Superstars. This game is an absolute blast, and if you have been a fan of the Mario Parties like I have, then this is the definitive version for you in my opinion. Now, I grew up with the N64, and that dang thing is still running, to be honest. Crazy the lasting power on those things. But I grew up playing Mario Party 1. A lot. To 100% completion, actually. So when I heard that this version of Mario Party was going to be bringing back old favorite maps and minigames from multiple Mario Parties throughout the years, I was sold. And luckily, it lives up to that promise. There's a very good mix of these maps and minigames from Mario Parties 1, 2, and 3, and I think it's really fun when I get a group of friends together to play this game. Personally, I played Mario Party 1 a bunch, and a bit of 2, but not much of 3. So it was cool to see my buddy, who grew up mainly playing Mario Party 3, get hyped when a minigame he loved so much showed up during one of our matches. Now, besides the cool gimmick of pulling our nostalgia strings, the game doesn't have much more to offer, but honestly, that's okay. That's what I'm buying it for. I literally wanted it to be an up-to-date Mario Party game with minigames and maps from the old classic favorites, so it's really that simple. And it delivers wonderfully. I'm sure I'll still get excited and get the new Mario Party when that comes out. Geez, I don't even know what version they're on at this point. 15? 20? I don't know. But I'll enjoy it for whatever it is when that time comes, I'm sure. But for now, I am happy to have an up-to-date version of the Mario Party on the Switch that I can play with all my friends while we get to relive some nostalgias of the old days. Also,
I'm a Wario. I'm gonna win.
Number 9, Super Auto Pets. This game came out of left field for me, and I actually noticed it from a bunch of popular streamers picking it up. Now, at first glance, it looks like a silly phone game, I know. And with a name like Super Auto Pets, yeah, well, it doesn't look super appealing at first. I get that. But what is packed inside the simple free-to-play game is a ton of strategy, replayability, and a bit of crossing your fingers for good luck that you don't come across some opponent's build with a stupid fly turkey build. Ugh. Okay, jokes aside on the game's meta build, they have actually been updating it quite frequently, and the meta has shifted consistently over the few months that I've been messing with it. The game is rather simple if you don't know about it, and I usually explain the game to my friends as, think of it as a card game, where you get to choose good combinations during a build phase, and then you get to watch the battle play out during the fighting phase. Except that's not cards, it's adorable little 2D animals. The game is super addicting, and I really do recommend it for anyone interested in 10 to 20 minute strategy games. It can be quite difficult sometimes to get a 10-win streak to claim an arena victory, as your lineup will be up against other players' lineups. But once you get a good team going and you work up a good fun combination of animals, it really is rewarding to push for that victory screen. Now, my personal favorite animal in this game is going to be the hippo, which is actually one of my favorite animals in real life, too. I got a lot of these little guys hanging around. Now, the hippo in this game gets an attack and a health increase when it knocks out another animal. So if you get a really big, bulky one in your line and you put it up in the front and it starts knocking out all the other animals, I almost said Pokemon, knocking out all the other animals, you can have a really good time with it. So that's my personal favorite, and I recommend you guys give it a shot. Number 8. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Now, Pokemon has always been a favorite franchise for me. I grew up playing Pokemon with Blue version, followed by Silver, Ruby, and, well, let's just say I've made sure to play every single main release Pokemon game that they've released over these years. I'm a bit of a fan. But that love and knowledge of Pokemon is a double-edged sword. And even though I love each and every Pokemon game, as an experienced trainer, I find that these newer games have trended dramatically towards being a more simple, casual, and just straight easy. And I say all that knowing that as I get older, I'm going to get smarter and better at what a lot of people consider a children's game. But if you guys have ever dove into competitive Pokemon battling, you know it can get far, far from a simple children's game. With all that said, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is an example of a Pokemon remake that hits all the marks, and surprisingly, keeps what was difficult in the originals still hard. The champion Cynthia is widely known to be one of, if not the hardest champion fight any Pokemon game has thrown at us trainers, and I appreciate that. The rest of the game follows what I would call the Pokemon standard, and for better or for worse, it played out exactly how I expected it to. Nothing done truly wrong, but nothing stood out as exceptional compared to any other Pokemon game. The ability to have our Pokemon follow us is included in BDSP, but at this point in Pokemon history, I kinda think that should always be a given, even though it definitely isn't always. So for that, I do give them some points towards BDSP. Now, I don't want to spoil too much about my thoughts on this game, as I have recorded my first run-through of this game as a video for the channel, and I'm currently halfway through editing that one. So stay tuned if you'd like to see more of that and more of my thoughts on this game. I did challenge myself, so I did end up making the game a bit harder than it would usually be, but all things considered, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were solid games to play this year, and while it didn't blow me out of the water like some of the higher choices on this list did, Pokemon is always great, and BDSP is worth playing for sure. So it gets number 8 on this list of 2021's best games. Number 7, New World. Okay, folks, let's talk about New World. Now, I'm going to have a lot more to say about these games as we get further along in the list, closer to number 1, and New World is no different. Let's dive into it. Oh boy, how to even start talking about this game? New World, to me, explained in one simple sentence, would be this. New World is a fumbling attempt at being the next breakthrough MMO, despite its wonderfully addicting crafting and combat system. Straight up though, Amazon dropped the ball. Hard. And multiple times. I was super hyped for this game upon release, and sunk many hours into working on my character. I chose to play Inigo Montoya, named after the Princess Bride rapier-wielding swordsman. But, well, somebody swooped that dope name before I could, so I settled on being Miguel Montoya, Inigo's long-lost cousin, so I made up. What I love about New World is the freedom you have as a player. Genuinely, the first few weeks of playing this game was epic, as is most MMO launches. I had made the early decision with my friends that I would take up the shield and tank for us. But since this game lets you make your own custom classes in a sense, by letting you choose your stats and your 2 weapons of choice, I also decided to use the rapier and be a tank that prioritizes dexterity rather than the usual tank choice of strength. And of course, I mainly stacked constitution to stay alive with a larger health pool. But the game offered a ton of fun between the Dark Souls-esque combat of blocking and dodge rolling to the hours of time I spent working on upping my crafting skills. The game felt good, honestly, for those first few weeks. But then, well, things fell apart. Amazon have had huge issues, including, but definitely not limited to, things like server sizes, where some servers see huge queue times and others have so little amount of players that it's already turned into a ghost town. They have been plagued with exploits and bugs, some of which have absolutely decimated the economy on servers, and they have made some EXP gain changes throughout the weeks and months of this game's lifecycle, arguably wasting the time of many players, or on the other side of things, giving some players a huge advantage over those who may not have already started to play. The list of New World problems is not short, trust me on that one, but I did have a fantastic first few weeks of this game, and while it didn't quite hit the mark for me on being that MMO that I will continue to play for years to come currently, it is a game that I enjoyed enough that once they updated a bunch and add a few tweaks and new zones here and there, then yeah, Miguel Montoya will take up the shield once more and continue his journey through Eternum. New World did just okay, and for that, it gets number 7. Number 6, Inscriptions. Okay guys, this one is a very interesting choice, and I can't say too much about Inscription without giving away a lot of spoilers. So I'm gonna try to rein it in on this one and not say too much, but let's give it a shot. On face value, Inscription is a creepy, horror, roguelike card game where you make multiple runs through the game's randomly generated board, progressing further and further until you reach the end and win the run. The game works like many card games, with each card having an attack value and a health value, and often their own specific unique abilities. These cards are placed on the attack board in one of 4 lanes, and as you pass your turns, the cards play out the fight, dealing damage and what have you to the opponent's cards or face life. Now, like I said, that is just on face value. See, in Inscription, you can get up from the board game and walk around, and that's what starts to make this long series of puzzles for you to learn how to, well, like I said, I don't want to give too much away, because this game quickly becomes very interesting and often genre-breaking. As of writing this, I have still yet to fully beat Inscription, but I have progressed enough to where the full scope of this game is realized, and it just keeps getting better. If you'd like to play what starts as an indie card game that will often make you think outside the box and continue to surprise you along the journey to rolling the credits, well, Inscription's got what you're looking for. The uniqueness alone of this game is why I rated it higher than things like New World and Pokemon, because while I have spent much more time with, say, New World, Inscription is an odd gem of a game that I will remember for years to come. Worth a shot. Don't look up anything for this game if you guys choose to play it. If you find this intriguing enough, I recommend you give it a shot. And remember, always pick Mantis God. Number 5, the new Pokemon Snap. Next up is the top 5. And here we are getting to some true gems in gaming. Not just good games of the year, but genuinely solid games in their own right. Number 5, I'm giving to the new Pokemon Snap. As I mentioned, I have a huge love for the Pokemon franchise. And one of the many reasons that is so is because of all the unique and different spin-off games that they have made across the years. And one of those I have played over and over and over again as a kid, the original Pokemon Snap. The original Pokemon Snap was enthralling for me as a kid. Finally being able to go from imagining this world of Pokemon to finally being in one. The first Pokemon Snap allowed this and put us young trainers in a 3D world in the wild with the Pokemon for the first time. I learned everything there was to learn about the original Pokemon Snap as a kid. How to open the cave level, how to get Gyarados, where to find all the hidden Pokemon signs. It was truly one of my most played games on the N64. So, obviously, when they announced that they were going to do it, and actually do it, and actually remake a new Pokemon Snap for the Switch, well, the little 10-year-old trainer in me got excited to once again put myself in the world of Pokemon and take some epic pictures. Now, taking my nostalgia out of the equation, and I think the Pokemon Snap still holds up today as a great game. For one, this game gives you exactly what you purchased it for. You want a game that has you going around in different levels and trying to take good pictures of all the Pokemon that game has to offer. It's a simple idea and easily executed enough, and I think they did a great job on that. The world has many different biomes to explore, and the Pokemon look great, and overall, the experience was smooth, works well, and just generally is a good time. But what the new Pokemon Snap has done to improve from the originals is allowed for multiple routes through the same biomes, and the routes change at night and day. And there are 3 different difficulties of each zone that unlock as you take more photos of all the new Pokemon throughout the route. These Pokemon, by the way, have 4 different rankings of photos as well, allowing you to take even more photos to be aimed for when you're out on a run. This has done so much for the game. Instead of simply running, say, the volcano level once and only getting a picture of all the Pokemon, you can now have a minimum of 6 runs through each level, each being slightly different, maybe having a different change in the Pokemon that showed up, as well as having a general aesthetic difference based off night and day. And for a game that is all about taking good pictures, having a wide range of biomes and weathers to choose from really expands the replayability and completion aspect of this game. All of this including the fact that the game progresses really well. Things just make sense in this game, and you're never really left confused with what to do. It also hands you rewards and new items for the different biomes very often, and it's just a good experience to play. They even have these really cool boss levels where you get to take pictures of rare Pokemon or even legendaries. Now, I don't really have anything bad to say about this game, and I know that, honestly, it's not for everybody, and it definitely gets some extra bonus points for being nostalgic for me personally. But that said, this is still a very well-made game that knows what it is, knows what its players want out of it, and delivers on it fairly seamlessly as well. So yeah, the new Pokemon Snap gets number 5 on my list of this year. Number 4, Icarus. Icarus. This game has been a roller coaster of emotions for me on whether or not I like it. First, honestly, I hated it. I was so bored with the slow progression and amount of running this game had me to do for the first 5 hours. But over time, with a bit of patience and realization with what the game has to offer, slowly, I started to really appreciate what this game has to offer. Icarus is a sci-fi setting, realistic survival crafting game where you land on a planet named Icarus to ultimately survive, build a base, and complete a specific mission relating to the prospect you chose to complete. It is very similar to builders and crafters like Ark Survival Evolved, The Forest, and even Valheim, but what makes this game a bit different is how the prospect system works. Now, you see, I'm the type of gamer who loves to work on a dope-looking base in any of these surviving crafting games we have out there. I will spend extra time making it look good, even though it might cost more wood or stone, you name it. I'm gonna have fun making it look good alongside being functional in the game I'm playing. So when I learned that Icarus is a game where every time you load into a prospect, your base from the last prospect won't be there, it had me thinking I wouldn't like it. Basically, every mission you load is a new, fresh map where you have to start from scratch every time. Gotta make your starting tools again, gotta make your base again, etc. And this is why, at first, I didn't like Icarus, but let me explain to you why over time I came to love this game. Now, while losing your base after a mission can suck if you put a lot of time into it, each mission is no cakewalk, and you end up being there often for multiple nights of playing the game. So spending time making your base look a little bit better than it needs to, well, it's still a little worth your time. Plus, every prospect mission in this game has a different time requirement before the mission is considered failed. So me and my friends go into the mission knowing what type of base we need to plan for. Short 6-hour mission, maybe just a quick little shack with the necessities will do. But a week-long mission that requires multiple fights against bears and other aggressive wildlife? Yeah, well, that one's going to require a larger house, complete with all the tools and crafting benches required for guns, cooking, armoring, you name it. On top of all of this is the joy of your character advancement. Your bases for each mission may disappear, but your character's level, talent, and tech tree does not. What this means is every time you do a mission, you're a little bit better than the last time. And starting over becomes quicker. You get better at it. Your tools give more yield faster, and before you know it, you're pushing your new tech that you were trying to build in your last mission already. Feels pretty good, honestly. There's also the joy of the fact that I've been playing this co-op almost entirely, and me and my friends have had the ability to spec into different things for the group. Personally, I took the route of the chef and the gardener for the group, so my character can make meals that the others cannot, helping grant different buffs for my friends as we go out on missions, and I end up getting my armor and weapons from one friend, and the base is powered by electricity set up by another friend. Icarus really makes you feel useful in your talents and tech choices that you pick when leveling up, and for a co-op game, I think that's a very fun way to play the game. Overall, Icarus has proven to me that if you give it a bit of patience, understand how the prospect missions work, learn that you should take it slow and be diligent in how you survive, because the game is hard, by the way. It's not easy. and I like that in survival games. But you do all that and you will find one of the most fleshed out survival games that we have out there. Like I said, it's definitely no cakewalk, but if you want a challenging survival game with a long progression, talent, and tech tree, multiple missions to embark on, and one that is better with friends, Icarus has what you're looking for. I just wish it didn't demand so much from a computer, as I have to run it in mediums with low shadows, so that sucks. But the game itself gets number 4 on my list for the games of the year. Number 3, Forza Horizon 5. Now for the top 3 games of this year, all of them are outstanding in their own right, and they each deserve first place in different people's lists. But for me, let's break them down. Number 3 is my racing game. I have always been a huge fan of racing games. For many, many years, I would state it's my favorite genre. And if I'm honest, I'm pretty damn good at them. Okay, lack of modesty aside, I bring it up to try to explain that I think I have a pretty good understanding of racing games, what makes them good and what makes them bad, and what they do to keep their players coming back. I like to break racing games into 3 categories. We have simulation racers, things like Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsports, arcade racers like Need for Speed and Grand Theft Auto, and kart racers like Mario Kart, Diddy Kong Racing, and any of the other ones that use items to battle with. Out of these 3 genres, I highly prefer the arcade racers. I don't mind losing a bit of realism in my racing game if it lets me have a good time controlling the vehicles in sometimes over-the-top situations. So the usual Forza Motorsport games for me, they tend to be a bit too much on the simulation side. Now don't get me wrong, I still like them, but the Forza and Horizon games have been a bit more my style. Having an open world to cruise around in, ridiculous races like dropping out of a plane in the sky, racing a train, or jumping over a canyon, well, those are just fun to do, and the Horizon game in the Forza arsenals are much more exciting for me for those reasons. Now, the first one I actually played was Forza Horizon 4, and it was good, but it did leave a bit to be desired if I'm honest. Controlling the cars has always felt amazing in both Horizon 4 and 5, but the world building and the AI race cars are far superior in Horizon 5. So much so that I have been loving the Mexican landscape that Horizon 5 has brought us this year. Sand dunes, beachside villas, sprawling farmlands, a huge volcano, swamplands, and plenty of tight corners and villages has really made driving this world extremely fun. I mentioned the difference in AI as well, and to be honest, it's still far from perfect, as the AI will often turn and bash into you and just do some really stupid shit. But in 4, they were nearly impossible to move, absolute rocks in your way. And in 5, I'm happy to say that you can actually move them out of your way if you need to. They're often still all over the road, and the rubber banding up to your friend in first place is still frustrating. But generally, they have made massive improvements in this year's installment. So for a long-time racing fans, Horizon 5 ticks all the good boxes. It's got a great open world, the cars look and sound fantastic, handling on all the vehicles feels different, but not too focused on extreme simulation levels of realism. And they have a tons to do each week as they update their in-game seasons to offer up new challenges, races, and vehicles to collect. It really is a great racing game to own as a fan of the genre, and currently, I'm thinking it's really the only one out there that you need to spend your time with. So there you have it. Forza Horizon 5 is the racing game of the year, and the racing game that I recommend you guys check out. Number 2, Valheim. Earlier this year, us gamers were surprised with a true gem of gaming. Coming out of seemingly nowhere, Valheim hit the Steam store and the world was taken over by a wave of Viking RPG goodness. This game is extremely popular, and for good reason. Its simple idea of the open world survival crafter turn RPG was captivating, and had me and my friends playing for hours at a time on our collective private server. At the peak of playing Valheim, we had, no lie, like 8 friends all working on the same Viking village, gathering iron, making food and tools for the weapons for each of us, all planning for a larger event where we would group up and finally take out a boss. Now, I don't think I need to tell you why Valheim is number 2 on this list, but I definitely want to. Because this game has so much value packed into it. The fighting is simple, but fun and often challenging. It changes based on what weapon you chose to spend your time with to upgrade. And the base building is honestly one of the, if not the best base building system I have ever seen. It's way better than Icarus, and though simple on face value, working with the beams and gravity of the game allows you to create some true masterpiece of architectural work. Leveling up your character in Valheim was also another example of something done so simply, yet made the experience enjoyable. It was the simple choice that has made games like Skyrim or New World ever so captivating. Work on doing something in the game, and you'll level it up. Chopping down trees for your house? Keep chopping and your logging will go up. Prefer axes in combat? Well, use axes to level them up. You run often? You'll have higher running speed. Sneak with a bow your style? You'll upgrade your sneak and your bow skills. You do you in Valheim, and that made everything in my group of friends feel like they had a different role and style of fighting in the game. Personally, I spent a ton of time as the axe/shield tanking for my friends. Along with tanking in New World, I often find myself in that role in my group of friends, which is fine. I love being the tank in games. And in Valheim, that meant I could do what all tank players love to do. You walk up to the biggest, baddest boss in the game and say, "Hit me." And your health goes from 100% to 95. That feels good. I could speak for hours on what Valheim did right, but I do want to briefly mention the ultimate unfortunate fate me and my friends had to deal with. You see, while the game itself is top-notch, the server and optimization of the game was not. Far from it, honestly. And the more we played, the more laggy and unplayable our home village became. Frame rates dropped, load times soared, and it got to the point where we just didn't want to continue in our world anymore. This, of course, should be mentioned, was after probably 60 to 80 hours of playtime, each individually. So we got our value out of the game for sure. But because our game world couldn't quite handle what we wanted to do with it, we had to call it and never actually finished the game. I think we fought 4 out of the 5 bosses. We plan to return to Valheim as a group once it has added a few more updates, and hopefully its servers and worlds can handle having 8 players work on one base. But until then, I'm okay knowing that the game itself was a gift to all of us gamers this year. And it really does show that you don't need AAA development levels of money to make a fantastic, successful game. Thank you, Valheim. I will definitely be back for more Viking adventures in the future. Number 1. There is a certain level of polish that is needed to give a game number 1. It needs to be a game that has no bugs, no annoying server issues, no demand for excess time in the game for you to become good. And honestly, there's only one game I played this year that had 0 problems. Yeah, 0 problems. I'm talking about the ultimate co-op experience that is It Takes Two.
This is the story of a magical king, one of wizards and warriors. It's an epic tale set upon the high seas, an odyssey through time and space. Pew, 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 pew.
It's also a bit of a winter wonderland bobsled sort of thing, you know? Wait a minute. Did I mention the big explosion? Hold it right there. Look at these dolls. Almost forgot they used to be humans. Ay, ay, ay.
Do you want to know what this story is really about? Huh?
It Takes Two blew me out of the water with how good this game ended up being. This game requires you to play with another person. It is literally only possible to load into the game with 2 players. And what you will find inside the game is a story-driven co-op experience full of puzzles, boss fights, minigames, and situations that will test your teamwork with your chosen player too. This game can easily be described as a single-player story experience made for 2 players, but that just scrapes the surface of what this game has to offer. Without giving away any large spoilers, this game follows 2 married adults, May and Cody, who are having a difficult time in their relationship and are thinking about divorce. In a Toy Story-esque situation, they are transformed into dolls and have to figure out how and why they were transformed, and more importantly, how to turn back into humans. What entails after is an interesting story where they have to learn how to not only return to their human forms, but also how to work well with each other, which you can imagine for a couple on the edge of divorce is not quite the easiest thing. The story is well told, and I've described it to others as essentially Pixar levels of excellence. Honestly, top notch. There's also this character called the Book of Love, who has some of the best lines I've heard ever. Like making sure to teach May and Cody the importance of cooperation. You'll get it if you play it. I'll save the rest of his lines for you to discover yourself. Now, as far as the game goes, this story adventure has you completing puzzles, mini games, and boss fights like I mentioned before. But these fights and puzzles are very, very well made. I found myself saying, wow, this is creative, over and over again to my buddy Aces High, who I played with. We actually streamed a bit of this over on his Twitch channel, so if you'd like to go find his VODs on it, you can go check that out. But beyond the creativity of this game and the excellent storytelling was a great deal of polish. The characters moved well, they had good weight to them, the mechanics of the puzzles functioned and worked as you would have expected, and the boss fights were some of the, I'm gonna say it again, the most creative I've seen. When you play as many different games as I do, both different genres and levels of development, you know, be it a AAA title that falls short of the mark, or indie games that are great in concept but lack a bit of the polish and completeness of other games, when you find a gem that has both good storytelling and game execution, well, you remember that game. Now, it may seem over the top for some, but I would genuinely rank It Takes Two up at the top of storytelling games, up there with Portal, Red Dead Redemption 2, Firewatch, and the Last of Us series. The storytelling is really that good. So, all that said, and all that praise being thrown its way, I easily, like by miles, give It Takes Two my game of the year for 2021. If you have a friend or partner that you like to play co-op games with, do yourself a favor and try It Takes Two. I really don't think you'll regret any of it. Alright guys, that's my list of my top 10 games of the year, and of course, like I said in the intro, these are only games that I have played this year. There are a ton that I have not and know that are good. Games like Halo Infinite, the new Resident Evil, Metroid Dread, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Marvel Guardians, Far Cry 6, and honestly, many, many more. Many of these probably should be on my list, but can't, because I didn't play them, and I didn't have the time to play them all. But damn do I wish I played them all. I hope you all enjoyed that top 10 list today. It's always a lot of fun putting down all my thoughts on the games we all play. Let me know what you liked, didn't like, agreed with, disagreed with about my list, and let me know your top 10 of the year down in the comments below. I'd love to see what all of you gamers have been enjoying this year. I also welcome you to subscribe to join the Sauropod Squad here on the J72 Gaming and Review channel. Here on this channel, we are fans of dinosaurs, but passionate about all video games, and I hope you'd like to join us. I hope you all have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or night. But until next time, guys, I have been Jay, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Cheers.